All right, guys. Earlier today, we went over Anthony Bradford as the numbers will tell you, but what does the film tell you? What does the scouting report tell you? What does the future hold for Anthony Bradford now that he's a professional NFL player? So, again, this isn't going to take terribly long here, but there are some things that I think are really, really encouraging here that I do want to highlight. I'm going to start with his pros. This first one, again, I don't want to exaggerate this. I don't want to put too much on this one. Because at the end of the day, if Anthony Bradford is playing tackle for your team, especially left tackle, it probably means something went very, very wrong. And I don't want to sit here and act like that's some great thing. But he did play a decent number of reps at tackle over his college career. It was almost 300. So a little bit of flexibility is better than none. Now, going into this season, if something were to happen at left tackle, I would, of course, much prefer Charles Cross to be replaced by Stone Forsythe, who is actually a left tackle. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Anthony Bradford is going to be our de facto backup left tackle, but he did get some reps at the spot and didn't completely embarrass himself. Okay, so let's talk about the stuff that's a little more meaningful now. He's strong and he's powerful in creating holes in the run game with strength. When he's in gap-based blocking schemes, when he's doing gap-based blocking on a running play, you constantly see him, even against good defensive players, even against strong defensive linemen, pushing forward and creating holes. He is often the guy clearing the way for the running back. So in that area, he excels. He also is somebody who's going to keep working until the whistle blows. He finishes plays strongly. He keeps pushing guys even when it seems like the play is over or the play has gone away from him. So he's somebody who's not going to just stop giving effort because he feels like he did his job. He's going to keep going until the play ends. He's very big and he's got a lot of mass to him, like we said in the earlier video, almost 90th percentile for size and weight. He's a force for defensive linemen to deal with. It's hard to handle him because he is just so big. It's just difficult to get through him. He can absorb even the most powerful bull rushers because he's got a very strong anchor. So pass protection has the potential to be very good in the NFL. He's really good at using punches to slow the momentum of rushers. That's one thing that you notice when you watch him play. And his testing numbers, like we talked about earlier, are very, very good. And the reason why I highlight that in particular here is because there was a reputation with this guy going into the draft, I think, that he was going to be a power gap-based guard. He was going to belong in a simple power, inside power system for running the ball. And watching him play, I don't see that, and I don't really think it's true. Not only do the testing numbers indicate that he's a really good athlete for his size, maybe even a phenomenal athlete for his size, but I see him doing things out there that make me feel like he will belong perfectly fine in a zone system. So this is an area where I was actually pleasantly surprised with how good he looked when he was put in situations where he needed to show athletic ability. When you put him in a double team blocking situation, he's dominant because he is so strong. There were those situations where he double teams a guy and it's just game over at that point. When he's actually helping another offensive lineman finish a block, it's GG. So that's a pretty good list of pros for Anthony Bradford. Now, I do think that while he moves well for a guy his size, the issue with him is mostly about lateral agility. So when he's going up against a speed rusher, it's going to be a problem. When he's going up against a smaller defender who's maybe a blitzer, it can be a problem because his lateral agility, I don't want to say it's terrible, or maybe it's not even bad, but it's probably not good, I guess would be the best way to put it. He started, I believe, 17 games in college across 4 years in college. If it wasn't 17, I think it was like 18. So it's right. It's either 17 or 18. And either way, that's not a lot. So I think one thing that's going to be a little bit of a hang up here is he's going to have a lot to work on that a lot of 4-year players in college don't because they played 30 plus games. The fact that this guy only has 17 or 18 career NCAA starts, it means he has a lot to work on, and I think that's a big part of the reason why he got beat up a little bit in pass protection in 2022. He was new. It was like he obviously he'd been practicing, but he hadn't really had a chance to play as much as a lot of these guys do. He's not great at picking up stunting blitzers sometimes, and even though I was pretty happy with what he did when he was asked to block in space, I do think he has some room to grow. He doesn't always look 100% natural at it. He doesn't always look like he's completely in control on it. I think it's better than most people would expect given his size, but there is going to be some room to grow there for sure. However, this is a player who has room to grow in a lot of places because he just didn't get a ton of college football reps. Okay. So when it comes to film, when it comes to watching him play, a lot of people talk about the game he played against Georgia because he looked pretty good against Georgia. Then that's Jalen Carter, maybe the best defensive player in college football. He didn't always beat him, of course, but he looked pretty good. But the game that I decided to focus on when it came to Anthony Bradford was Alabama, because this game highlighted some stuff that I was really, really happy to see. So he's going up against Alabama. Last year was not one of their best years, but still a very good team, and they had probably in my opinion, the best defensive player in college football last year in Will Anderson. So beyond just that, there are many reps in this game where Anthony Bradford and Will Anderson actually go at it. So it's not just a thing where like, oh, he's on the other team. No, he's engaging with Bradford from time to time. Now, when I started this game up and started looking at these reps, I thought I was in for a bad time because the first snap of the game, literally the first offensive play of the game, he gets blown by. The defensive lineman gives him like a little swim move, just blows past him. It's an ugly rep. He just didn't look prepared, and he gave up immediate up the middle pressure. It's an ugly rep. Not good. And when I saw that rep, I was like, we might be in for a little bit of a long day here, but not really, no. A little later in the game, I noticed a play where he peeled up to the second level to block a linebacker, which encouraged me tremendously because it's not just about the ability to test well. You also have to be able to actually do it in a football game. It's one thing to run fast in a straight line. It's one thing to accelerate to top speed quickly. It's another thing to actually do it in the context of a football game. And on many reps in this game, I thought he looked natural and comfortable moving up to the second level. One play he moved up to the third level to block much smaller defenders, and at least in the context of a college football game, he looked fine. He did pick up one penalty in this game, but I don't know. He pancaked the defender, and he got called for holding. I don't know. I mean, he was holding up really good in pass protection, and then the QB started to scramble, and then he got a pancake on the defender, and they threw the flag for holding, and I don't know. I didn't really think it was holding. I think he just drove the defender to the ground, and it looked like holding a little bit maybe, but I thought it was a bad call. I don't know. I only got one angle on the play. Maybe the other angle would have made it obvious, but it looked to me like he just drove him into the ground. Over and over in this game, I noticed when they ran plays up the middle for the running back, he would get a nice push the guy a few yards down the field, create space for the running play to develop behind him. So definitely developing holes, definitely pushing the line of scrimmage back. And here's the other thing that's cool about Anthony Bradford. Really good at setting those seal blocks. By which I mean there were a lot of plays in this game where he would start on the right side because he's the right guard, and as soon as the snap comes up, he would just peel over to the left side and lay down a seal block on the end guy. It was actually frequently Will Anderson. And the running play would go back to the right, and he would basically be sealing off the chase down. And it showed his ability to square up in space and get a block down on a defender who isn't right in front of him. There was a screen pass where he picked up a linebacker who was blitzing, and I thought he did it fine. Not anything amazing, but he did fine. He seemed to always generate a yard or two of movement down the field whenever he was engaged with a man right in front of him. I liked his awareness. Like there would be plays where he would start blocking one guy, and then he would block that guy into a teammate, and the teammate would pick him up, and then Bradford would just break off that guy and go to another guy that he needed to pick up. There seemed to be a good understanding of like, okay, I'm going to block this guy for a second, but then I'm going to peel off him and go over to this guy and block him. Like, it wasn't just tunnel vision. I thought he launched off the ball fast and powerfully on running plays. And the thing that I kept coming back to in this game over and over again, watching the tape, he would come from the right to the left and hit the seal block on Will Anderson. So to me, that is promising. That is indicative of the ability to at least somewhat. And I know this is college football. Pro football is going to be a different monster. But it indicates to me that he can play in space. He can hit moving targets. And that's what we need. His lateral movement, I don't think it's great, but I watching this game, I didn't get the sense it was terrible. I thought it was okay. Needs to get a little bit better. But it makes sense that he would be raw in that area. He's kind of new. There was one rep that really caught my eye, and I talked about this a minute ago. On a wide receiver screen, he peels downfield to block a defensive back like 10 to 12 yards down the field. Like, not even a linebacker. He's running down the field in front of a wide receiver screen to block defensive backs. That encouraged me. There were some plays where Will Anderson actually engaged him straight up on pass protection, and he did good. He did pretty good. There was one play where he was basically, it wasn't intentional, but he ended up being basically the lead blocker for a quarterback scramble way down the field. And, I mean, he did clear the way for him. A couple of bad reps from him against Will Anderson. There was a 3-man rush where he needed to help to double Will Anderson, and he was late. And Will Anderson got pressure because he beat the right tackle. There was a running play where he doesn't really square him up well, and Anderson gets through and disrupts the play. They had a big goal line touchdown late in this game where I thought he did a really good job generating big push on the goal line. So gap stuff, we like that sometimes. One of the plays where he gave up pressure, I think is where PFF gave him credit for giving up a pressure, was a play where the LSU quarterback basically ran up into the pocket right into the lap of the defensive player. It happened twice late in this game, and I don't know how PFF counts that. But to me, it looked like the blocking was okay, and then the quarterback just kind of ran forward and took the sack because he ran right into the defender. So moving into the pressure, that's going to make a lot of offensive linemen look bad. So to me, those plays were not really on Anthony Bradford. He was the key lead blocker. LSU ran 3rd and 7, a draw play, on the final drive in regulation for them, when they were trying to go get a touchdown to try to win the game. And he was basically the lead blocker. He was the one running forward, clearing space for the running back on a draw play, and they got the first down on it. On the actual touchdown play on that game, he got pancaked pretty badly, but it didn't really affect the play. There were, I think, 2 plays in this game where he got pancaked, and it was a little disconcerting to see because he's so big and strong. Shouldn't be happening. But this time it didn't really affect the play. LSU only had 2 offensive plays in overtime, and there wasn't really much to say about either of them. The QB ran for a 25-yard touchdown, and then they got the 2-point conversion. Bradford had minimal positive or negative impact on the play. So I don't really have anything to say about that. But watching the tape on this Alabama game, I feel like I learned a lot about Bradford's game. He's not going to be able to, he's not as good moving around in space as somebody like a Jason Kelsey or something like that. I'm not going to go crazy here. But he did it a lot in this game, and he did it fine. He wasn't just blocking the guy right in front of him on every single snap. He was actually moving down the field. He was hitting moving targets, hitting smaller defenders, and I thought it looked fine. So to me, that is very, very promising because this guy also brings a lot of size and strength to the table. And again, like I said earlier today, the reason why this guy went in the 4th round to me was because he's an unfinished product, because he did only start 17 or 18 games in college. All right, so I like this game. If you want to get sold on this guy, and I'm not saying he played perfect, like the first snap of the game by him was ugly, but if you want to get encouraged by this guy, I would recommend watching this Alabama tape because I saw him in space a lot, and he looked totally fine. All right, I'll see you guys later. We're moving on to another rookie tomorrow, but for now, let me know what you think of Anthony Bradford. Go Hawks.